Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. As in the title you can tell, this is me going to be talking about death battle ideas that I absolutely do not fucking like in the least. Now, I'll get into that a little later, but some matchups I have sway opinions on, so I'll get into that later in the video, but for right now, this is mostly going to be me hating on some ideas for the fuck of it, and also because I'm bored. And also the fact is that this was requested by a friend of mine. So sit back, enjoy hearing me rant about ideas I do not like. So, starting off, I'm going to talk about Ruby versus Maka. I've never liked this idea. I've never liked Ruby. For those of you who know why I don't like Ruby, you know why I don't like Ruby. I hate their fan base with a burning passion. But it is mainly because I do not trust Death Battle with using Ruby characters. Now, you know I'm going to go when I bring up Weiss versus Mitsuru and Tifa versus Yang. The fact is that they didn't know how to scale RPG characters like them back in the day. The fact is they've never openly admitted that they actually mess up information. That does not count as an excuse. Because if you look at most other big power scalers in any type of community, if they mess up on a scan, they will openly admit that they are wrong on something. Multiple people will do that. Death Battle, on the other hand, has never once openly said that, hey, yeah, we messed up on this, and we apologize for that. Since they blatantly lied about Tifa versus Yang, that is in general an atrocity of humanity about the amount of lying they pulled to make Yang win. And I know people were saying that, oh, well, it was a promotion for Volume 3. Believe that if you want. I choose to have some faith in Death Battle that they would never stoop that low, is to purposely sell out for a Season 3 review. But if that's true, that wouldn't surprise me. But, you know, I'm not going to bring up Tifa vs. Ging anymore since that was in the past. I do have a problem with Weiss vs. Mitsuru, though. And for the love of God, do not bring up the fact that, oh, well, Mitsuru won, so it's okay. I'm like, no, like they heavily lowballed Mitsuru in that fight. What Mitsuru to cap at, like, what, solar system minimum? And they put her at, like, what, what, city plus, probably, if I remember that correctly. And again, I know they didn't know how to use RPG characters, and I'm so glad they fixed that in Joker vs. Journal. But for the longest time, that was the reason why people thought Persona was weak, was because of that single episode of them saying, oh, well, Persona only caps at, like, building level because of Death Battles. And I'm like, no. Just no. And I know I'm ranting about 2 episodes, but I've just never cared for this episode of Ruby vs. Maka. And it's more annoying that everybody wants this to be the season finale and everybody wants Torian to work on it. And I'm like, both of those are just stupid. If Torian is to come back and work on an episode, which I know he is, it should 100% be Nero versus Hellboy. Because that would complete the DMC trio that he's worked on. And he's killed all those 3 episodes. And I hate to break this to you, but this does not have a season finale potential. Kyle Rayner versus Simon the Digger, that is a season finale worthy episode. Ruby vs. Maka does not have that type of power. But again, I know I've been ranting about literally nothing for the past, like, 3 fucking minutes. I'm gonna move on. I just really do not like this episode. I really fucking hate Ruby fandoms. I still do not trust Death Battle with Ruby in general. And I know for a fact that they're probably going to pull some BS to have Ruby win. I don't know. I just generally just don't like this episode because of a lot of factors. The fans, the scaling, Death Battle themselves, the people who want this as a finale, the fact that they want Torian to work on it. It's a bunch of factors that plays into why I really hate this episode as a whole. Next up, we have Luffy vs. Naruto. I don't know why the hell anyone wants. This is the most bland matchup you could ever do for a Death Battle. Luffy vs. Naruto shouldn't even be a topic. And in my opinion, if they did Luffy vs. Naruto, they literally just could have done a big 3 battle royale at that point. And in my opinion, that would have gone a lot harder if they did a big 3 battle royale. And I know, to be fair, Luffy doesn't really have any matchups. Like, his only decent one is, like, Natsu, and I find that one kind of boring since Natsu's another matchup is another One Piece character. But again, Naruto doesn't really have anything, and I really don't feel like Naruto needs to return. Barrier mode really doesn't add much in general. It's a massive drawback, if anything else. But overall, this Naruto vs. Luffy is just bland as hell. It's the basic bit of wanting death battles, as you can say. But overall, bland, boring, and I generally don't know why anyone would want this, besides the fact that Naruto and One Piece have a big rivalry. But again, if you want to do that, you could have just done a big 3 battle royale, and it would have been the same. But anyway, that's really enough about that. I don't really have much else to say about this. Next up, we have Mirako from My Hero vs. Lopunny from Pokemon. I am not going to lie, if you like that matchup, you are a weirdo. I am not going to lie, you are a weirdo if you like that matchup. Now, even if you're going to joke, oh, well, it's a joke match, that they're both super sexy bunny-like creatures, you are still weird. I am not going to lie. You are a general weirdo if you unironically like this matchup. But yeah, that's really all. I don't have much to say. Just that the people who like this unironically are just weird. Next up, we have Ragna versus Soul Bad Guy. I'm specifically going to talk about a rematch. Is a terrible idea. In general. And to be fair, even in general, the matchup was never really anything that good. My problem with it is that Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear have so many other characters you can pull from. So many interesting characters you could bring up. I'm going to name a few. Haikumen, you have Eddie or Zatu 1, you have Religious Clover. You get the point. You get the point where I'm going with this. You have Makoto, the squirrel chick from Blaze Blue. Sorry. Guilty Gear, my bad. You get the point of what I'm trying to bring up here. There are so many other Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear characters you could bring, but no, you want to bring back the 2 iconic characters. And again, that's just my problem. Like, Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear have a lot of cool characters that you could bring up. Hell, you could do like Haikumen versus Archer. This is a new character from Blaze Blue, and not just Ragna again. The same thing with Soul Bad Guy. Guilty Gear has a lot of cool characters. Hell, you could use Eddie, or I guess Zatu 1 if you want to call him that instead. You have a lot of cool characters you could be pulling from. But no. You get the point. I don't like the rematch specifically because Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear have so many cool characters that you could also be pulling from. And the fact is that I know Death Battle is not going to be pulling from any Guilty Gear or Blaze Blue characters unless it's Ragna or Soul Bad Guy. Now we might get Ragna versus that one girl. I don't know her name. You know the one I'm referring to. That overall is fine, and I'll be fine with that happening, specifically because it is not a rematch with Soul Bad Guy. Anything but a Soul Bad Guy rematch. But please, Death Battle, if you're going to be doing another Guilty Gear character, please be somebody else. They have such a cool roster of characters that we could be pulling from. But yeah, I mostly dislike this because it's taken away from the fact that Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear have other, in my opinion, more interesting characters than Soul and Ragna. And so in my opinion, Soul and Ragna are just kind of basic, in my opinion. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that matchup. Next up, we have Plastic Man versus Mr. Fantastic. Boring. Mr. Fantastic versus Plastic Man is such a boring matchup. Now, if anything, Mr. Fantastic should be in a team battle with the Fantastic Four and the Incredibles. Sorry about that. That overall would make better sense since the Fantastic Four are a team. They've always been a team. And it literally would just beat them all having a one-on-one appearance on Death Battle. If you did the Fantastic Four versus the Incredibles, kind of gets them all out of the way in one go. But also the fact is that like it's boring if it's Plastic Man versus Mr. Fantastic. It's just too stretchy guys from Marvel and DC. In my opinion, it's just basic. Like I like Plastic Man a whole lot. But again, Mr. Fantastic is just low-key, just really boring. And no, Luffy's not better for Plastic Man either. They're both equally bad in my opinion. Next up, everybody knows I'm not a fan of Kazuya versus Wesker. A lot of people should know that I do not like that matchup. And I still don't. I just find it bland, and it's just so boring. Kazuya would absolutely beat the shit out of Wesker, and it's not even close. Hell, even the connections are just kind of boring in general. And like, to be fair, if we're being realistic here, this shouldn't even be a debate, in the least. Kazuya would kill Wesker in about 3 seconds, if we are being honest here. Next up, we have Punisher versus Flashpoint Batman. Now, I have one problem with this matchup, and again, it's the same thing with the fans. The same people who usually complain about, oh, we're getting too many Marvel and DC matchups, are the same people who want this, but say that Judge Dredd versus the Punisher is a bad matchup. And in my opinion, Punisher versus Dredd is the best matchup they both have. I've never liked RoboCop versus Dredd. That's just a personal biasy thing. And the reason why I dislike Punisher versus Flashpoint Batman is literally just because it's for everybody who just says, oh, we don't like Marvel and DC matchups anymore. We're getting too many of them. Again, are the same people who want this matchup instead of Punisher versus Dredd. Yes, I know it's petty and all, but it is a thing that strikes my nerve sometimes. If you get the point, you get the point. Next up, I'm going to have Persona versus JoJo Maruki versus, I think it's pronounced Pucci. Again, just super boring. I've never really understood the hype or why people like this. Besides the fact that JoJo and Persona have a rivalry, I guess. But again, to keep it really short, it's just such a bland matchup. And I am glad people aren't the biggest fan of it. Since it's just boring. I don't really get the hype for it. Okay, next up we have Dan versus Jinga. Now, this one does still have a special place in my heart for nostalgia. But again, I just don't know how the hell they could pull this one off. My main issue is, like, I know the soundtrack would go hard. I just don't know how the hell you could pull off the animation with this type of style of Bakugo and Beyblade. Like how the arena works, since both of them have different styles of how they fight. Bakugans are usually played on like a solid surface, and Beyblades are always done in a stadium for the most part. So like, how would that work mostly? And also, I just feel like the animation style for the Beyblade would look so bad. Like, that's when I really started to dislike, because I knew the animation would look so weird. Especially on Dan's Bakugan. I feel like the animation style for both of them would just not mix well in animation style terms. But generally, that's just what I think. Maybe Death Battle would prove me wrong if they ever did the episode, I guess. And then I'll actually get to see what they can do. Next up, Bakugo versus Inosuke. I've always thought that My Hero and Demon Slayer do not mix at all, unless you're looking at specific characteristics of a character. With Inosuke and Bakugo, I like they're both angry hotheads. Like, I don't get, this is literally just an ass beating. It's Inosuke gets his shit kicked in for 3 minutes. That's literally it. And not even the banner potential is going to save this fight, since, again, it's not all you have to, yelling, angry. And if we're going off of that's a real disservice to Bakugo's character as a whole. Since by the end of My Hero, Bakugo is no longer like that. And in my opinion, this is just going to do a disservice to My Hero fans who read the series. Since by the end of it, Bakugo is a completely different person from how he originally is. He's no longer an angry hothead with a short temper. He's a completely different human. And again, I just don't like the idea of My Hero and Demon Slayer. And yes, if you're going to ask my opinion on that Mayuri matchup, it's whatever, I guess. I guess it's nothing really special. I like it over Bakugo versus Inosuke, if that's what you want to know. But yeah, in general, I don't like this matchup. It's a disservice to Bakugo's character. It's just an ass beating for like 3 straight minutes. And also the fact that, like, if all you have to offer is banner potential, nothing really can do for you. At least nothing can do for me. Maybe you're different. And if you like it, that's cool. Now, might be a little controversial. I'm not a big fan of Black Cat versus Alastor. I just never really cared. I don't like Villainous. I don't like Hazbin Hotel. So overall, I really just do not care. I mean, I think the animation potential could be a little cool with like their weird glitchy effect that Alastor has. But overall, it's just kind of boring in my opinion. Can we all agree that Gohan versus Invincible is low-key just a terrible matchup? Because at this point, it's just going to be Omni-Man versus Bardock 2.0 at that point. And for everybody saying, oh, this is super thematical, how? In what way is this anything thematical? Because again, it's just an ass-kicking. Invincible is a brawler. Gohan has so many more range attack. And plus, they probably had Bardock win. Bardock lose. Well, strictly so people will probably think that Invincible is going to have any chance against Gohan. Gohan would absolutely bully the crap out of Invincible. And if you're going to say, oh, well, you think Superboy is better? No, actually I don't. Superboy is also a really bad matchup. Both of these are terrible matchups for him. Since again, Invincible is just a brawler. He doesn't have any superpowers like Superman. He doesn't have laser vision, heat vision. He just uses his fist. And in my opinion, he's just kind of boring to have on Death Battle. But that's generally just what I think. I generally think this episode will be boring if it happens. If you notice a theme... Sorry about that. If you notice a theme, you know that I hate one of the franchises. And I hate Miraculous a whole lot. And also the fact is that this matchup just sucks. They're both insect arachnid teens with superpowers. I know there's a lot more, but you get the point of what I'm trying to say. I just dislike this matchup. It's just boring, if you get my point. Again, I also really dislike Miraculous, and that's probably where a lot of my dislike for the matchup comes from, is from my distaste of Miraculous. And also the fact is, I just feel like these two do not work in a death battle point. But in general, that's just what I think. Overall, I just don't like this matchup in general. Next up, I have Alphonse versus Nezuko. Do I really need to say much? This fight in general is a terrible idea. And also the fact is, like, if that's the point, just do Edward, Alphonse versus Tanjiro and Nezuko at that point. It would make better sense. And also, I don't like the animation potential on this episode. I feel like it'd be super weird. And also the fact is that the anime kind of does some weird things with Nezuko. If you know what I'm referring to, you know what I'm referring to exactly. And I know for a fact Death Battle will go that route, and it'll be really weird watching. But again, I've always disliked this matchup. I generally think it's terrible. So again, this is probably a lot of my bias to be talking right now. Last but not least, Doomsday versus SCP. Now, before you get mad, I think Doomsday versus SCP overall is good. My problem with Death Battle is using SCP in general, for one simple key reason. What are you going to use for SCP? Since SCP is borderline just a fan fiction with a lot of people, there's so much different interpretations of SCP, it is insane. And that's just my problem. Like, what are you going to use? Are you going to use a composite, a slight composite, a full composite? Because, again, I don't know if you could even do a composite, since from what I know, most of the stories are a lot different from one another. So, again, a slight composite or a composite in general really won't work. But again, if they ever use the SCP, I'll see what they use. I'll be interested to see what they would use, but that's just my main complaint. Is that what are you going to be using for an SCP character on Death Battle? Since SCP has so much different stories and lores, and they're written by so many different people, that it's going to be really weird to see what are they going to use if they ever decide to use it. But that's just what I think. Overall, Doomsday versus the SCP character, it's fine, it's thematical, it's cool and all. But, like, I'm just curious about, like, what they would use for SCP in general. I hope you enjoyed me bitching for the past, like, 20 minutes. Please don't take this seriously. This is literally just made for fun. This is literally not even supposed to be taken seriously. Now, where it is true that I dislike a lot of the matchups on this list, it's just an overreaction for entertainment. So if you're going to get triggered and send me threats, grow the fuck up, honestly. But anyway, take care, and I love you all so much.